Welcome to this video tutorial that's going to guide you through setting up a basic Flash animation. We'll start by creating the new project file, so by clicking on the actual advertising script, and the white space that you see in front of you is known as the stage, and this is where the actual animation will be performed, where you're trying to create it. First thing we're going to do to the stage is just resize it. So I want to have one that's 200 pixels wide and about 300 pixels deep. Okay, because we're going to create one of those web banner adverts, and you can see that immediately updates the stage on the screen, and you can see the area that we're working with. Other things we can do to the stage, we can set the background colour of the stage. If we go to right click and look at document properties, you'll see on this screen you've got the background colour, which I'm going to use as black, I think. You'll also notice that you've got the frame rate here, so you can control the speed of the animation to some extent if you want to slow it down or speed it up by adjusting the frame rate per second at the bottom. Okay, we'll press OK on that. Okay, so I've set the background colour of my stage. Now the initial purpose of this is to kind of guide you through setting up some animated text and animating each stage of the risk assessment to create an animation. So to do that, I'm going to go and grab the text tool from across here and click. Okay, and the first stage of the risk assessment was identify the hazards. That's step one, identify the hazards. And you'll notice if I use the selection tool from this menu bar here, your menu bar could possibly have defaulted to this side of the screen. If it has, drag it across to this side by holding and selecting that part of the bar. So I've put some text on. Let's have a look at this text. Okay, so I've dragged that onto the stage. The properties for the text are over here on the right hand side, so if I want to change the font type, well, I'm quite happy with my font type as sample. I think that looks quite good. If I want to change the colour of the text, then again, if I double click into there, highlight the text, I can change the colour, and I think I want a kind of whitish colour on that background. Okay, so that's how I add text, and I can set the position of that text. Well, initially for my animation I want to set the text to arrive on the screen, so I'm going to start it off the stage and animate it so it arrives on the stage. First thing I need to do to the text, and you'll notice there's a repetitive pattern here. If I right click on the text, I need to convert it into a symbol so that I can animate it. So I'm going to convert to symbol. Movie clip is fine, and I'm just going to call it step 1 and press OK. Okay, and you see it becomes a symbol. It also adds it into your library, so that you can use that, drag it on as many times as you want it, basically in the future. So how do I make it move from off the stage onto the stage? Well, here comes the kind of skill for that. So if you remember down here from earlier in the year, each of these are individual frames. Okay, think of these as kind of pages in a flip book, if you would. And what I'm initially going to do, I'm going to say by frame 25 I want this text to arrive on this screen. So I'm going to right click on that particular frame. I'm going to insert a keyframe. Now if you remember, when you insert a keyframe, it basically makes a copy of what was on the last keyframe. Okay, and the last keyframe is represented by the black dot. So when I click on 25 and insert a keyframe, you'll notice that nothing happens. Okay, it's just made a complete duplication of that frame. But what I want to do is on frame 25 is have this text on the screen. In fact, I just want to resize it a little bit so that fits on. So just resize that so it fits on. So I want that text to be on the screen. So frame 1, the text is there. Frame 25, the text is there. Then I'm going to link it up using something called a motion tween. Okay, and what a motion tween does is it works out where the object starts in frame 1, where does it finish, what frames should fill that gap to make it look like fluid motion. So if I go back to frame 1 and right click and insert a classic motion tween, if I press Ctrl Enter on my keyboard now, you can see I have some moving text. Okay, now if I want to carry on, keep that moving, which I do, so I want it to pause on the screen for a period of time. So I'm going to give it a window of time on my timeline down here at the bottom again, and let's say frame 50 now. I'm going to insert a keyframe again, because that's going to make a copy of what was on the last keyframe, black dot. and again nothing happens. So over this time period I don't want anything to happen. I want that text to stay exactly where it is and give the reader time to actually read what it says. Okay, so that's fine for that part. The final bit then would be making the text exit the screen, ready for the next item to come up. So I'm going to go across to frame 75. Okay, right click, you can see the pattern emerging here, insert the keyframe, nothing happens. Okay, but this time on frame 75 I want that text to have moved back across and off the stage. To create the motion tween to link the two keyframes together, I'm going to go back to the last keyframe. I'm going to right click, insert classic motion tween, and that does the motion linking this frame to the new keyframe. And so if I play that through now by pressing Ctrl Enter on my keyboard, you can see on, pause for a period of time, disappear. Okay. The final bit would then be, well, what do I need to do next? Because obviously I want to get the next stage of the risk assessment to come up. Well, in frame 75 we're going to kind of start the process again, and we're going to animate all the text on one layer. So we're going to insert a blank frame because we want some new text. Okay, and we're just going to completely restart the process. So grab your text, step 2. What are the risks? Click off, and there we go. Let's tap that down onto 2 lines. That makes sense. And we start the process again as we were at the start. So right click, I need to convert that into a symbol, into movie, click, press OK, and I can literally begin the process again. Frame 100 is where I want the text to come on. So insert a keyframe, drag on the text at frame 100, back to the keyframe, and you can see the repeating pattern create the motion tween. Play that once more for you to see. Okay, so that's your task initially, is to animate the text so that each stage of the risk assessment comes up one after the other. I don't mind from which direction you animate the text coming in or off the stage. That's entirely up to you. Okay.